Hi guys, it's Katie, and I just got back from Costco. I got all of these items, plus I got quite a bit of meat that's in the refrigerator right now. But I thought I would do sort of a food prep video showing how I break down some of these larger items to make them more manageable for my small family. And I thought I would just show you a few of the things I do. Maybe you could get some ideas for yourself. So let's get started. I use these plastic containers to store my meat in the freezer. I use these for all sorts of things in the fridge, in the freezer, in the pantry. I really like them because they're reusable, so I can just run them through my dishwasher, use them over and over again instead of throwing them away like baggies or foil. These are called Ready-Tainers. They are specifically made for freezing food. I got them on Amazon. I can link the exact ones that I got, but I got the pint size and I also got the quart size. So the quart size I use for bone broth, chicken stock, soups, chilies, things like that. And then the pint size fits 1 pound of ground meat perfectly. So you can also freeze in mason jars if you have freezer safe mason jars, which is any mason jar with straight sides. So this wide mouth pint jar is freezer safe because it doesn't have the shoulders. If it has shoulders, it has the potential to crack when you freeze it as the food expands. And I've had some mason jars crack, which means you have shards of glass in your food. So it's basically, you have to pitch the whole thing. So after I had a few of those jars crack on me, I moved to the plastic containers. Also, I like these plastic containers because I have 15 containers here and it just takes up this small area. Whereas if I had 15 mason jars, it would take up this whole counter. So I'm just going to portion out my ground beef into these containers. Sometimes I weigh it, but these ones I know hold exactly 1 pound. So I'm just going to portion out some ground beef, and I'm also going to make a few that have half ground beef and half ground turkey, see how my family likes that. I just want to make sure that I'm pressing the meat firmly down into these containers. I want to make sure that there's no big air pockets or air bubbles where the meat could be exposed to air and have freezer burn. So I'm just pressing them down into these containers, and then I'll put a lid on each one. And then I'm just going to use a dry erase marker to mark what's in the container and the date that it's going in the freezer. And now these are ready to go in the freezer. For the tomatoes, I like to get these big number 10 cans. It works out to be about 40 cents for a 14-ounce can, which is a pretty good cost savings. I don't find any change in quality after freezing them, and it's really convenient to have them on hand. A lot of times I forget to thaw them out, or I decide at the last minute I want to use them. I just microwave them for about 2 minutes on my defrost setting, and they're perfectly fine. Sometimes if I'm making a soup or a chili, I will just put them in the pot in a big frozen block, and they'll melt into the soup or the chili. So I have mine in quart containers that is equivalent to a 28-ounce can, and then I got one extra pint, which would be like a 14-ounce can. For the tomato paste, I do it a little bit differently. I do use baggies for the tomato paste, and that's just because I use such a small amount at a time, and there is quite a bit of tomato paste in this can. So I just put it in a baggie and I squish it flat, and that way it's kind of thin where I can just break off a chunk at a time. Just use it as I need it. It does help if you fold the edge over a little bit so it's a little less messy. Then just press out as much air as you can and press it flat, and then freeze these flat. And then whenever they're frozen and firm, I stand them up like books, and I just have them stacked up in the back of the freezer, and I only have one pulled forward at a time. For the carrots, I don't usually get this many carrots at a time, so this is 10 pounds of carrots. I wanted to make sure that we would use them up and that we were snacking on them and things like that before they go bad. So I peeled up a whole bunch. I'm going to cut up a bunch into carrot sticks. I just have a wet napkin in the bottom of this container just to keep the carrot sticks from drying out and keep them fresh. Then I put another damp napkin on top. With the rest of the carrots, I'm going to ferment into pickles. So I just put some crushed red pepper and cumin seeds in the bottom of this container. And I'm just slicing some carrots into this jar. And I'm going to top it with a 2% brine solution. That's just salt water. And then I'll let it ferment on my counter for a few weeks and then transfer it to the fridge where they'll stay good for months and months. The last thing I'm doing is with these almonds. I usually just roast them in the oven for like 15-20 minutes, but today I'm going to make some glazed almonds. So I just whipped up one egg white, and about half a teaspoon of water. Just beat it with a fork for about 2 minutes till it was fluffy. Add 3.5 cups of almonds, quarter cup of sugar, a teaspoon of salt, and then whatever spices you want. I have some cumin and chili flakes that I ground up there. Just stir everything to combine, and then spread it out on a baking sheet lined with silpad or parchment paper, and just bake them in the oven at 300 degrees for about 35 to 45 minutes. And just stir them about halfway through, and when they come out of the oven, just let them cool completely, and I just store them in a mason jar. They're really delicious. You can also do this with sort of a cinnamon sugar flavor as well. But that's all I have for my food prep video. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave me a like, click that thumbs up button, and thank you so much for watching.